society's so sick. You have like half of the world, half of leftist Twitter justifying it by saying words are violence. So this was justifiable. I mean, these people are psychotic.
Yeah, the lefties are definitely kind of going all in on it because they're all about justifying the degeneracy that was kind of going on between those two. She needed some deep spiritual healing found, with a 23-year-old between her legs. But we'll get into that a little bit more later on. Jose, initial thoughts and takeaways.
About the slap. I don't know. I mean, there's so many different angles to take with this. As silly and stupid as this is, honestly, it's one of those things I kind of like didn't care, but there is a lot of different angles to go with it. It is like the only thing that there definitely is something to the fact that now it gives something for people to actually care about with the Oscars. And I know Clint already kind of brought this up about that, a lot of people said it was fake. I lean towards it's not fake. It seemed genuine to me, but I wouldn't be surprised either way. I wouldn't. It's not like I'd be like if I found out somehow some leaked documents came out, they're like, oh, it was all fake. I wouldn't be like, oh my god, and I'm like 60-40, but I lean towards it was real. But I don't know. Altogether, it was all just kind of silly. It definitely was a very I mean, for Will's part, I get in a sense sometimes if you were face to face in a bar and someone was talking shit to you maliciously, while I still wouldn't say you should do it, I get it. If you hit a dude because he's talking shit about your wife or some shit, I get it. I mean, I probably most times wouldn't. I know we'll say that's bitch behavior. I don't care. Whatever. I have nothing to prove. Okay, you think my wife's ugly? She's bald? Okay, cool. Well, then don't fuck her. Great, because you won't. So, but I don't know. It's not really. It's just something that rolls off my back. I don't know. It just seems silly to be like that. But it's a totally different context. It's literally a completely harmless fucking joke that I get it, being upset by it, but it really wasn't even that bad. And I don't know. It just all seemed fucking silly to me, really. But yeah. I guess there's different angles we can go with that. There's a lead up. I don't want to go too in depth because I don't know where you want to bring this to, because there's multiple angles we can go down with this whole clusterfuck of the situation.
Yeah, I've kind of wanted to dive into the nuts and bolts of it, but we'll kind of get there when we get there. I agree with you guys, actually, that I don't believe it was staged either. I feel like if it was staged, they probably would have turned his mic on when he started yelling, and it would have been a lot more clear rather than him literally yelling across the room and making it so quiet that you could hear a freaking pin drop. And I mean, he slapped the fuck out of him too. It wasn't like, a little love tap. I mean, it was audible. So I err with you guys. And then he puts out a pretty thorough apology. And not that necessarily makes it true, but
I apologized today? I didn't see that.
Yeah. Literally, I think just before we were getting on here, he put a statement out on Instagram or something like that. He also gained 1 million followers throughout the course of this. So, there's kind of a lot to this. So what I meant by the nuts and bolts of things would be kind of the social dynamics surrounding that. But I guess before we kind of get rock and rolling down the rabbit hole here, let's do a little share. And hopefully I got this right. And hopefully the audio works. Share screen. Okay. You guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Cool. All right. So this was the best unbastardized clip I could find. Most of the other ones were bullshit and commentary. It's only about a minute long, but the real juice kind of starts right around 20 seconds. So right about there. You guys can hear that, right?
I'm not hearing any audio. I don't know if that's something I do on my end. No, I think maybe you just got whoa. No, let me close it. See if you can figure that out. If not, I mean, a lot of people have already seen it. Joey said, "I fucking hate that this is in the news when so much else is going on." Yeah, no, this is pretty dumb, but I don't know. There's definitely some conversation to be had here, and it's something.
Right.
Yeah, I talk about all the serious shit 99% of the rest of the time, so don't sweat it. Just you can tune out if you don't like us talking about it right now.
Yeah.
It's like laying pipe and be like, I can't believe I'm doing this. There's so much other serious shit going on. It's like, I don't know, have some fun every now and then.
No. In case you got to enjoy some steak, and it's not all sizzle with your steak. Sometimes it is just the steak alone. But initially what had happened was that he said, hey, G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. And she has allopathic alopecia or something like that.
Alopecia? I don't know.
It's some kind of hair disorder.
Some black people disease. I don't know. I have no idea what it is. I know it's always they somehow made it a black thing though. I didn't know it was a black thing. Like I don't know. Like
no, actually, men suffer from androgenic alopecia or something. I can't remember the exact terms off the top of my head, but it's actually an autoimmune disease. Yeah,
look, I'm a victim.
Yeah. I got a little bit, not quite that bad yet. But
I think we have about the same amount of hair, to be honest. I just say,
yeah, I get yelled at. I got told I look really old if I shave my head and leave the beard.
It does make you look older, but I've been doing it for 10 years, so no one has a clue what my age is. I wanted to say real quick, one of my best girlfriends actually has alopecia, and she's been bald for years, and she's very beautiful. But I count on her. She's white. She's half Egyptian.
That's what's weird. I saw so many things that made it like a black thing, and I'm like,
well, I mean, she's half.
Why wouldn't they make it about that though?
I guess, but it's also like, how is I just assume maybe alopecia just affected black people more. I don't
it ain't
fucking
sickle
know.
cell. Well, it may affect them more, but regardless, white people get it too, so it's not a racial thing. So, anyways, she has no hair, and like I said, she's totally beautiful, but I clown on her constantly for it, and I think that's like when you're really close with someone, that's what you do. You make fun, and we're both bald, so it's a nice relationship to have. I will say this though, if I was in a bar and some random dude were to come up to her and clown on her for being bald, I would probably slap the shit out of him. So it's all about setting to me, because it's like, first off, if I don't know you, I can't say that type of stuff. However, the setting was a stand-up comic who's doing his job, and you're a famous person who is accustomed to being dragged through the mud by everyone on social media forever and ever and ever. So there is no justification for him to do that, especially for what amounts to a relatively tepid joke, and a joke that any young person didn't even get because they don't even fucking remember that movie. So I just thought all the way around, it was like such a dramatic overreaction. And I go back to the fact that I really think he was trying to reclaim his manhood, because he feels as if it has been questioned very sincerely, and it has been questioned very sincerely by a lot of people. Yeah. And so his reaction is to try and stand up, show his masculine side, and then pivot it to being about defense of women. In particular, if anyone saw his speech after he won Best Actor, that's all it's about. He's just like, I have been called on by God to defend my family and women. And then he starts talking about all the women that have been in the movie that he won the award for. And it's like, bro, this is so transparent. Like, you slapped him because you're a cuck and you can't handle it. Like, that's what it is. And everybody knows it. So I don't know why you're going down this path.
Did you guys see all the Jack Murphy memes? The Jack Murphy beard on Smith's face? Sorry, Jose.
No, you're good. Oh, shit, I forgot my point. Yeah, there's definitely something to that. Someone brought up, sad. Or no, what did he say? God, fuck it, lost it. He goes, you can make fun of his wife, but you can't put you can put your dick in her, which is like, I mean, don't get me wrong. One thing I did want to touch on is I have honestly no issue with Will and his open thing. I don't really care, whatever. But the weird thing is though, is that people clown on him, and I remember wanting to say I think there's I saw somewhere that they said that like Chris Rock was one of the many people who clowned on him big time for it prior. Which, I mean, whatever, still beside the point. You're still, the setting is nowhere near appropriate, at least in a bar or something. While I may not agree with it or think you should, and I may not even do it myself, I mean, I'm sure I can imagine a hypothetical in which I would, but like, it's still like there's, at least there I can understand. This is fucking retarded. But with the open relationship thing, I don't give a shit. It really, but then it comes down to like, the problem is, I guess, I vaguely remember in the interview when this all came out a while ago, he definitely did not seem comfortable with it. So it's one thing. It's one thing if you have an open relationship and you're like, yep, this is what we both want. We're cool with it. It clearly does not seem like something he's okay with, which is one aspect of it. And then, which then kind of plays in the whole dynamic here of how, if you look at the video, he was laughing at the alopecia joke. And then his wife got a bitchy look, because as soon as as soon as Chris Rock said it, you saw Jada's face do that like look when a woman does not like a joke, which is like pretty much any joke with a woman. But but yeah, she gave that look, and then his face changed. So like, and then it kind of almost plays more of that dynamic of like, you're just your wife's bitch. Like, and that's what it kind of comes off. It's like, if you guys both have a relationship, you guys both want to have an open thing, whatever, far be it for me to say anything about it. That's your thing. There is something too, when you are a public individual, the aspect of how that translates to the rest of the world. And then that kind of plays into the Jack Murphy thing, which is like, it is weird with Jack Murphy. It's like,
He's hetero-flexible.
Yeah, I was thinking about today, and it's like, I feel like you got to be one extreme or the other. Like, you either have to be completely open about it, completely embrace it, or don't say a word about it ever. Ever, never, ever, and keep your shit on lock. Because if that was the case, Jada was sloppy as fuck, because she was like fucking her son's kid, or her son's friend. So it's like, kid. Or whatever. You know what I mean? Her son's friend, which is like, if you guys have an open relationship, even if that is the case, I cannot in any way imagine how that is anywhere appropriate to be fucking friends of your son. Like, that's fucking weird. Or even just to be the least bit open about it. Like, if you're going to be doing that, like, unless you guys are like open and completely embrace it and he's all cool with it, which even then that's weird. I feel like as a public person, I don't know. There's something to that where it's like,
well, see, this is the whole reason I don't respect him, is because he's clearly bothered by it, which means he doesn't want it to be happening. But he doesn't put his foot down and stop it, which is why I personally have lost respect for him. It's not even that he's doing it or that he's allowing it to happen. If that were the case, I'd be like, hey, it's your life, brother. Like, do what you want. But it's either one or the other. You can't have this hybrid ground where you're like, yeah, my wife fucks other dudes and I'll beat anyone up that jokes about it. It's like, no, dude, you're bothered clearly. And I think that's the saddest part about it.
Well, so the nuts and bolts of it to me, and that I kind of think everybody's kind of breezing past, is that if you think back to 2020, when this all kind of initially started in a way, right, where the news got out that she was screwing around with that dude August or whatever, right? The dude's 23 years old, and they had broken up or were engaging in an open relationship or whatever. And then this Red Table Talk came out where they were going back and forth, kind of what you guys were talking about a little bit earlier. And you could tell Will Smith is on freaking edge the entire interview. And she says that it was an entanglement, right? He kept kind of trying to get her to say what it was, but she wouldn't do it, right? So she ended up saying it was an entanglement, right? You're in an entanglement. Like, I'm in a entanglement with my fiance, right? Jose is in an entanglement with his wife, right? Where they end up producing babies, right? It's not a relationship, because if you say that, then it looks bad. But the surrounding culture around this is that we're supposed to believe women are wonderful and women can do whatever they want and they don't have to pay a price for it, right? Now imagine what would happen if Will Smith, the 50-year-old actor, went around and fucked a 23-year-old woman. Everybody would be losing their minds. People would lose their shit over this.
Well, especially if it was his daughter's friend. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't even care if they have an open relationship and he was fucking some 23-year-old. I might be like, it's weird because of your age, but whatever, do you? I mean, 23, I guess, like, it's weird, but at least they're like of age in all regards, I guess. I mean, if you're like 19, all right, that's like really weird. I mean, not like criminal, but fucking weird. If you're like a 40-something-year-old dude fucking a 19-year-old, but like 23, whatever, I don't give a shit. But now if it's like your daughter's friend, yeah, that's fucking weird. Like, yeah, not cool.
Yeah, and the other thing is that I saw so many people kind of sticking up for him doing that, right? Where, I would do that for my fiance too. I would do that for my wife. I would do that for whoever. This is how we have to treat our wives if they're being talked about this way. But he's being celebrated as a hero, kind of like the same dynamic you see with step parents, where you're not the dad who, you're not the stepdad, you're the dad who stepped up. You're supposed to embrace your cuckoldry and carry on with that because it's the right thing to do, right? Where it's man bad, woman good. This woman was completely unfaithful and screwed around on him. And then he went out and, he looked like an ass on TV. How are you going to take that? She literally told you I was fucking another dude on television, on national television in front of everybody. And he just had nothing to say about it. He tried to get her to just say, look, I fucked up, but she really wouldn't come out and admit that. And 2 years later, when somebody busts his wife's balls and then she rolls his eyes, then he feels like it's his time for redemption. It's time to go slap the shit out of somebody. And it kind of upset me because I think Chris Rock is actually a pretty likable dude from what I've seen of him. I think he's hilarious, but that's neither here nor there.
It's insecurity masquerading as machismo is what it is.
Right.
What this whole situation is because it is like me and Clint both said. Clinton said that he would slap someone in a situation in the bar. I may or may not. I say I wouldn't now, but if I have a few drinks in me, I might. But I fully admit that's not the right course of action. Now, whether I do it or not doesn't mean anything. And I will say it is because there is some aspect of they're playing on my insecurities because I do feel like someone is impinging on my fucking, my ego or as me as a man or disrespecting me. Whereas but the rational side of me realizes hey, this doesn't lead to anything good. Nothing good comes out of this. It's best there are obviously situations where you get backed in a corner and you're not don't get me wrong. If someone's talking shit to my wife or something and we're going to close an area where it's not really that easy to get away from them or whatever, I'm probably going to have words and there's a good chance it escalates. I don't know if I'd throw the first punch, but it probably will get there one way or the other. But there's still some aspect of that's not me being rational. I'm able to recognize, especially in this current context, that's not the appropriate thing to do. But now in a situation where it's he's literally on stage, he has to go to such an extent to literally express his outrage. It's so fucking childish, and it's just insecurity. I don't know, anyone who's come to defenses, I've just lost any respect. Luckily, I haven't seen anyone I really respect come to the defense of that I can think of, because it's just such a bitch move to even endorse that. I don't know.
Well, Monster came to his defense a little bit.
Oh, did he? Well, he has me blocked, so which makes sense.
Which surprised me. I think that really, I don't. This is kind of an unlibertarian position, but more of an anarchist, enforcing the culture type position. I think in any setting, if a comedian says something, you don't assault them. That's just absurd. They're up there trying to make someone laugh. So you just flatly, no matter what is said, you cannot assault them. And the fact that security wasn't immediately brought in to just cuff him and escort his ass out of there is insane to me. But I will say, I don't think that it's totally irrational if your significant other is being badmouthed by some rando in a bar and you say hey, we're going to have a physical altercation if you don't stop. And then if he doesn't stop, then, at least you've given fair warning, and then you go from there. So I don't know. I think that that's kind of part of the degradation of our culture is the fact that men don't really do that anymore, is that we don't check people when they're out of line. And now we're kind of at this really dark place where you have some people justifying violence for really stupid shit, and then you have other people that don't use violence even when it's probably justifiable. And I don't know where you find that line, but it just seems like we're definitely off the path that we should be. And I know that we take my libertarian card because I just violated the nap with that take. But
yeah, I mean, I have no problem. Even I will admit that it's maybe you did break the nap, whatever. But it's I don't know. I'm kind of getting at I have me saying I would perform an action under a given scenario is not me in any way endorsing it. I don't know. Maybe there is a case. And as you were saying that, I was kind of thinking there's definitely a case to be made that in certain situations, you could almost imply they're kind of being aggressive if they're doing something like that. So there is a case to be made that hey, okay, all right, well, I'm gonna stand my ground. Okay.
Well, and it's a man, bad mouthing a woman who can't defend herself. So it's at some point, you can't allow it to escalate to the point of the man assaulting your significant other.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
You're going to have to intervene, be it verbally or physically, at some point, unless he just gets bored and walks away. So I don't know. I think that there's a real discussion to be had there. We got a super chat by Arabian Pleb.
Yeah. I was going to bring it up when it seemed appropriate. Yeah, Arabian Pleb. You guys see you on here sometimes. I appreciate it. Gentlemen, is a lesson here to not continue a marriage with an unfaithful person. Much love, legends. Thank you. Appreciate it. I think that's kind of, I would say the crux of here is defining terms, because that's kind of what we're getting at. Unfaithful. I think whether someone's faithful or not depends on, your
terms
given
of the agreement.
Yeah, your terms of your agreement.
Yeah.
Like if you were in a relationship, and that's kind of what we're getting at. Like, I mean, obviously no one knows the inner dynamics of his relationship, but like it definitely seems like he's not okay with it, as we've all said.
Yeah.
So it does kind of seem like she's kind of unfaithful, although it is like to some extent. I mean, if I had to assume this situation in there, I guarantee you it's one of those things where she's kind of like, well, we should have an open relationship. It's like, well, I don't know if I'm okay with that. And then she probably just talks over him and kind of bulldozes him. Yeah, and so it's like, in a sense, it's kind of like, all right, dude, that's your fault. Like maybe it's kind of debatable when she's unfaithful or not, because you haven't really made it super clear, because you probably just bitch out and just fold to whatever she says. So like.
And I also think it matters too if he's having an open relationship on his end. Like if he's running around doing whatever he wants whenever he wants, then it's kind of fair game. But I don't know any of the details of the inner workings, so. All I can judge is based off of what I do know. And what I do know is that he's not comfortable with it and he's not leaving her. And for that reason, I think that he ought to leave her, or he should expect us not to respect him. I think that's simple.
So he probably should. Well, I think he should have left her as soon as he found out that she was running around on him. Right. I mean, because in my mind, if you are of the persuasion that once you marry somebody, it's just you and this person monogamously for the rest of your lives, then, once that person is no longer monogamous with you, then you kick him with the curb, right? And
I would push back in a little bit, because there are kids involved. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. If this happened when they were like 3 years old, then it'd be like, nah, fuck that, I'm out. But like, I think his kids were both in like high school, so I can totally make a justification of like, or at the time, or like, I think the daughter is younger. So like, I don't know if she was of age at that point, but there is some argument to stay together for the kids. Not for a long period of time, but if you're like, just a couple years, we'll make it last until they're out of the house. But like,
they're both adults now. I know that.
They're both adults now. Yeah. Now there's no reason. Like they're adults, like they can get over it. Like there's no,
and the kids are fucked up. So
my point is essentially here though, if these two agreed to be together, then okay, well, if you cheat on somebody, and I'm not saying their specific situation, but like, Jose, I'm sure if your wife cheated on you, you guys would be having words. If my fiance went out and cheated on me, then obviously same deal. We agreed long ago, like that's a line you don't cross or else we're done, because you can't violate that trust. Men's innate instinct, though, is kind of, I want to know the child's mind, right? So whenever you're with a woman and she goes running around on you, then you don't know if that child's going to be yours, because what does that say if that child's not yours? Then your DNA dies right here, right now, and you don't continue on to the next generation. So that's gene death for you. That's what men don't want. So when women go running around on men, that's gene death to us. We don't know if the kid's ours, and we don't want to be cuckolded. And when that happens to men, clearly they're not okay with it. I mean, some men may convince themselves that it's okay, but I think our innate instinct is to think, no, this isn't what we want. And I think he kind of showed that in not only this interview, but in his behavior at the Oscars.
I got a hot take. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, from the female perspective, it's pretty similar actually, in that they want, if they don't know that the man is the father, then they can't expect him to be there to provide and to care and make sure that the child survives, which also amounts to gene death for the woman. So the same instinctual drive exists for both sexes. I just wanted to add that.
Yeah. Sure. I do have a little bit of a hot take here. I think it's it should be, maybe not even necessarily should be, it almost is in some senses. I feel like more acceptable for a man to have multiple partners in a biological sense, cultural sense, multiple senses. Because, like, I mean, even from a biological argument, it's it's pretty easy to tell when a woman, if from a woman's perspective, if it's yours, and like as a man, you don't know. So it is like a matter of spreading your seed around. And if you look at like the Bible, any ancient texts, even modern civilizations, some modern like third world civilizations, there's like the going trend is like the more successful of a man you are, the more wives you have or concubines or whatever. It's very rare that you see, even in a historical context, a woman with multiple. And I know you can make a case that, I mean, I think if we were to bring it back to like early man, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if man or humanity was something along the case of like lions, where it's almost like a pride. The more successful of a male you are, the more females you had. So it is why something about cuckoldry is like so perverse deep down to our core. Like, you expect a man to fuck around. I'm not saying that's okay, because it is a matter of like your terms, but I honestly find it more appropriate when you see things like Mormons and shit that like have multiple wives. I mean, I wouldn't want to fucking do that, especially not in a modern context. And like, 1,000 years ago, sure, that's just a sign of that motherfucker is, like killing it right now. Like, he's doing well. But modern day, the women have gotten a little more uppity, and I think it'd be a little bit it wouldn't be so fun having multiple women. But,
Yeah, well, there's evidence on this too, that the more men that a woman sleeps with, that actually the less and less likely she is to be happy in that marriage, and the less and less likely that marriage is going to last. So around like 1 to 3 or like 1 to 4 is about ideal, right? That's where the chances of that marriage lasting are actually the highest. And then once it gets over 4, non-linearly actually gets worse and worse and worse. And as for men, it actually doesn't matter. Right. And once again, you think back to our core is that what do we want to do? We want to spread the seed. We want to get a whole bunch of kids out of there so that way our DNA continues on in the next generation. Now, as Clint said, there obviously is a element of that in women as well. But
that's why they want to sleep with powerful men, because
exactly
right,
Right, because they want somebody who's going to be able to provide for their offspring and once again protect. They're looking for provision. It's not, and obviously women can provide for themselves in current day context, but you got to think about what are our brains kind of hardwired for. And once again, men, we want to know the kids ours, and women want to be provided for and protected, and once again, make sure that their offspring are safe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess this kind of made me think, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if this began or with Will fucking around, or if he had fucked around before and then
he did say, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but in that Red Table Talk that he wanted to get even.
He wanted to get even?
He said he wanted to get even.
Okay, that implies she did it first. Because, I mean, part of me was like, maybe he fucked around first, and there is something to a man to where, like he fucks around, and I get it. If you're a rich, powerful man, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it'd be super hard to avoid the fucking, especially if you're on the road all the time. I mean, let's be real. I mean, if you're a dude, like a attractive, powerful man, it can be getting thrown at you, and you're not always gonna be with your wife. So I mean, weakness happens. So
and he probably spends months away when he's on movie sets and things like that.
Yeah.
So I honestly think it's kind of crazy for men of his status to get married, simply because you have infinite options wherever you go forever and ever and ever. And it's like, I don't understand really why men in his position make that choice. But if you're going to make it, you should make it with some woman who would not possibly consider doing this to you. Like, I think that's the weirdest part about it. It's like, you can have any woman on earth, and you chose a chick who's going to run around on you blatantly in public. Like, why?
They were married for 25 years.
Right.
So I know. Yeah. Okay.
No, I know. But if she's going to change the terms of the agreement and you're not on board, fucking leave, man. Like, this is where I lose the respect. It's like, of course, she has the right to do this if she wants to, but he absolutely has the right to leave her ass for doing it. So I just think that's a really simple.
This kind of plays to my earlier point with these rich, powerful men. It kind of harkens back to the old times of the if I completely get if I was a rich, powerful man still wanting to have a wife, kids, stuff like that. But if you're always gone, shit like that, I that kind of goes to the terms of your relationship. I think you really should consider having an honest conversation and finding someone that's like, hey, I'm probably gonna fuck around. Like, let's be real. But it's not cool for you. I'm not even playing. I know it sounds fucked up, but like, it's a little bit different with his dynamic with his wife, because Jada has her own money, her own power, or whatever influence. Whereas it'd be different if you're a dude who's bringing all the power, money, everything to the table, and you have someone you love, etc., whatever. I feel like it's perfectly fine to be like, hey, these are the terms of relationship. Like, I'm not cool with you fucking around. Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, it's a little bit, like I said, it kind of muddies things up with something like Jada, because you can't really because I guarantee if you bring that to the table, she's like, well, all right, I can fuck around. You're like, oh, fuck. like, I'm not cool with that. Like, and you know what? I would completely get her being like, well, I don't want you to fuck around. Like, it really does come down to how you define your relationship. And I totally get how these rich, powerful men, would have these type of things. Maybe I know a lot of the trad people might be reeing right now, but I think there's something. If you're a rich, powerful man, I think it's unreasonable to expect you to not fuck around to some extent.
This is the beautiful irony of all this, is that the trads will be upset, but there is nothing more traditional than a powerful man having multiple
Yeah.
partners. Like that is actually the traditional way of living for much of human history. So I think it's kind of ridiculous that people would say like no.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, it is traditional. That is the traditional way. And I'm not even saying like it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's
what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
to play on Kyle's typical shtick with the health and liberty, I watched this documentary forever ago about like testosterone, and they've shown that men who it's kind of this weird relationship between how testosterone goes, at least from the little bits I understand, is like men who typically lead, that generic, fucking around, doing high risk activities, kind of living that like early 20s life, that typically ends up being that kind of spur increases your testosterone. They found that men who, like myself, who are, domesticated, have wife, kids, so like typically have lower testosterone. Luckily, I've kept up with fitness and stuff, so I probably keep it up. But they've shown that it seems to be that these type of activities actually raise your testosterone. And they've also shown that kind of plays into these rich, powerful characters. So, the Bill Clintons, all the big players, the Will Smiths, whatever, they've shown statistically these individuals tend to have higher levels of testosterone, which makes sense because that makes you have more charisma, more energy, more, there is something about,
for lean mass.
Like, I don't know if
drive,
you've ever
more passion towards conquest. Like these are all like very male instinctual things. And if you're going to be a true alpha and rise to the top of any industry, it's kind of a prerequisite. I mean, certainly sometimes you can be a beta and just have an immense amount of talent and end up in some sort of art form that allows you to rise to that level in today's culture. But historically, if you didn't have high testosterone and you weren't just like the stereotypical alpha, you'd have essentially no chance.
Yeah. And with that comes a higher propensity for fucking around, which one of the things in that documentary, I remember it was kind of interesting how they kind of brought into the context of the modern day and how things are becoming, they really, I think they brought up Bill Clinton a lot, and how his whole situation with all the infidelity came up. Like that was very commonplace. Like look at JFK, but no one really made a thing of it. It was this like unspoken thing people kind of knew that like rich, powerful men fuck around. And that's kind of just what rich, powerful men do. And it is kind of this like, typically the kind of people who get this situation are high T people, and this kind of like comes with it. And I guess this kind of plays into the conversation. There's definitely something to there. I had another point I was going to make, but I just find that interesting. That's like these high T people end up in these situations, but then it's like this weird modern day situation with the modern day media, where there's so much more of a scope on people, a microscope on people, that is kind of like it's having this opposite effect where now it's like kind of weeding out these people. 60
years ago, we had every president was sleeping around, and the media wouldn't even cover it because they respected the office so much that they wouldn't talk about it. But secondarily, it was just expected. They were like, this isn't even newsworthy. Of course JFK is sleeping with Marilyn Monroe. Of course he is. So I think that's the funny thing, is like, this isn't even ancient history. Like this has been kind of the way of the world for a very long time. And it's only this modern iteration where, woke culture and all this nonsense where we actually make it a big deal. Ultimately, I don't give a fuck. And I've said that many times. I really don't care. I just think that when you bring your personal life into the public, then you have to expect the scrutiny.
Thank you. I'm glad you put that on there.
Yeah, exactly. the Genghis Khan, the ultimate poon hound. That dude.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, could you imagine? I wonder what his lay count was by the end of his life.
Can you imagine if he had just only slept with women that were willing? Like then he would just be a legend and not a total rapist.
Yeah, he would be "Let me kill Mister" then, right? I just wanted to add on to what Jose was saying there a little bit earlier. Think about Tiger Woods, a comedian I like a lot, Alonzo Bowden, even though he's a complete and total Democrat and kind of insufferable in that regard. His one thing was Obama got his Nobel Peace Prize, and he thought he was the most famous black man in the world, with the Nobel Peace Prize and everything. And then Tiger Woods came around and said, "Really? Watch what happens when I fuck around." So, but yeah, same deal. Tiger Woods bought his wife an island. It's kind of like, well, I'm all right with you doing whatever you do, just as long as you don't fuck around on the island I bought you.
Well, this is actually a good example, because you have Tiger Woods, you have Jeff Bezos. You have all of these guys who, when they're not super rich and famous, get married, and then they get to be a billionaire, and then they're just like, all right, I'm gonna exit, and I'm gonna get a younger wife, and I'm gonna pay half of my fortune to this woman just because I want so desperately to be able to sleep around, like, because they couldn't do it when they were younger. And I think that it's just this, like, it's a really tough position for men to be in. And I don't think people, like, I know a lot of people will just be like, oh, you're just a, scumbag or whatever. I'm like, look, I'm just being honest. Like, if you are some nerd like Jeff Bezos who couldn't get a girl to save his life and you become the richest man in the world, like, yeah, I feel for the guy. I'm like, yeah, I could understand why you want to finally go out there and conquer everything that you never could in the past.
Yeah, well, his wife or his ex-wife now became, I think, the richest or like third richest woman in the entire world once they divorced.
Exactly.
It is weird whenever I hear people who can't understand this concept, because it's like, not to be entirely crude, but it's like the only people who seem to not get this are like women and then like bitch dudes. Like, I'm not saying it's okay to fuck around with your wife. I think, like, if you're a rich, powerful dude, maybe you should have some sort of conversation, explore the boundaries of what you guys are comfortable with in that regard, because it is kind of like there is something natural to that extent. But try living life as a high testosterone person with a dick. Like, I'm not saying, like, I've been married for a decade, been faithful, like, but at the same time, like, I generally typically, like, I don't know, generally don't put myself in situations, but, like, I don't know, like, if you're a rich, powerful dude being thrown at you, like, I don't know, like, there is something to the expression, like, thinking with your dick, like,
it's a well-known phenomenon in the NBA where the guys just they almost all of them are married and have kids, because that's, like, culturally what they do. They get married, they have kids, but then also almost all of them have just, like, not even necessarily a discussed open relationship as much as that it's a given. They're like, yeah, when I'm on the road, I'm one of the most wealthy black people on the planet, and I have girls on Instagram that are just saying, I will meet you at your room. Do you think I'm not going to do it ever? Like, it's just kind of like, no, I'm going to. I have, like, supermodels that want to meet me in New York.
Right. Well, think about what men mostly want. They want unlimited sexual access to the most, sex that they can possibly get. So, I mean, if you got that coming at you, how many dudes do you know that are really going to say, sorry?
I mean, there are some, and God bless them. And I'm actually one of I'm one of them in the sense that, like, I am capable of being faithful, but I also understand the kind of, like, ill will that builds up over time if you're in a relationship. If you're like, if you have all of these options and you're just like, no, I love my wife, I'm gonna be faithful forever until we die.
Missing out.
Yeah, it's FOMO. It's exactly. It's just FOMO. And again, I'm not justifying it. I'm just explaining it. Like, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, someone said in there's a difference between the king's bastard son and the son that inherits the throne. There's something to that. That kind of plays into, like, there was something to that. The fact that, like the bastard son, it's almost like like the king, everyone understands the king's going to fuck around in that context. Like, everyone understands it. But at the same time, the king generally is kind of just a little bit is discreet about it to some extent. It's not like something you flaunt. The same thing. It's kind of the opposite. The same thing with Jada. Jada was, like, flaunting it. Like, even if we were going to flip the roles, even if we weren't playing, I know people may say it's sexist, but that I brought up earlier that I find it to be more appropriate for men than it is for women. But let's say we make it completely equal. Even if we flip the roles to where Jada was Will and Will was Jada, it still would be fucked up in the extent that where she was flaunting it. Like, that's not okay. Like,
he was flaunting it in the flip scenario. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's really the problem, is that if you're going to have this type of lifestyle, given the cultural taboo about it, well, then you have to expect you're going to get dragged. Like, same with Jack Murphy. It's like, dude, you were talking about masculinity and manhood and all this stuff. Like, it's going to be natural that you're going to have pushback if it comes out that you did XYZ in your past. So I totally agree with Jose. It's like, either embrace it entirely or explain it. You have to explain it, or don't ever let the fucking world know. Like, it's one of those three options.
I mean, with him, it was already out the bag with Jack, because he already wrote an article about it. That was the whole point. It's like, it's already there. There's no avoiding it. Like, if you hadn't done that shit before, it'd be a different story. You could be like, whatever. Like, because the thing with Jada and Will, like, it'd be one thing if, like, they had an open relationship, they never spoke about it whatsoever, like, openly in the public, and she didn't flaunt her boy toys around, because there is something to that. You could make the case. It's like, okay, well, she still loves Will. Will's her main man, whatever. She fucks around every now and then, has some fun, maybe while he's on the road or whatever, whatever, do your thing. I don't give a fuck. Like, that's your deal. That's your relationship. But it's something disrespectful about, like, Like there were pictures of her with the fucking boy toy and shit. She was kind of walking around and stuff, and then talking about it on like fucking like major like airing their laundry out on like I can't remember what show it was on, but it was like major shit. Like that just
I read
comes
she
off.
has she has like some channel on Facebook or something where she talks about it. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this?
It just comes off as disrespectful, even if that is your guys' relationship. Like it just comes off.
I think that's what really was Hillary's gripe with Bill. I think you would be completely naive to think that they don't have an open relationship. I think that Hillary and Bill have an open relationship. I think that I personally believe that Hillary's a lesbian.
Hillary Clinton.
I know. Well, women do. I think she's a lesbian, and I'm serious. I really believe that Huma Abedin, the now ex-wife of Anthony Weiner, was very likely Hillary's girlfriend.
What the fuck, that's my I dropped the link in the group chat.
What's up? He said, anyone want to join? I was like, all right, I'll come through. And then I hear Clint talking about cuckoldry. I'm like, I'm in. We're in.
Poilu says, let's be honest, Will Starr is falling, not rocks. I totally disagree. Will Smith just won Best Actor. And that movie was really good in my opinion. So it's kind of and Chris Rock came out hard in favor of like mandatory vaccination. So he lost my respect personally.
Yeah, there's something to it, Paul, you said though. Like if you I know we're in Twitter world, so that's how I'm like gauging it by. But if you look at like the big people and shit, like a lot of the Oscar type people, a lot of them were like kind of sort of had Will's back. But if you look at like most I don't know, people that like the salt of the earth people give a shit about, most of them were kind of like, fuck this is bullshit. And it kind of plays, there's some sort of parallel here between the slow death of Hollywood and the ratings or whatever, and how much they glorify themselves. And this is kind of that exemplified once again. Because if you look at the group of people who are, being like, oh my God, look at this, you go off, King, or whatever, like the demographic of them, the demographic of people like, whoa, dude, what the fuck? That's not okay. It's kind of the same demographic. If anything, I know there are like a lot of people saying this is for, ratings, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure they got a rating boost or whatever. And I mean, maybe it was fake. I don't fucking know. But if anything, I actually think it only goes to further their decline because it shows how out of touch they are with the people.
Right. Yeah. I had a question, but I completely forgot what the hell I was going to ask.
You know what? It reminded me of how weak of a society we have now, because I was thinking I've been studying like not ancient history, but American history, like the founding fathers and things like that. And when he goes up to him and he slaps him, and the way that he slaps him, he was just missing like a white glove, slap him, and then say, "I challenge you to a duel." Except there's no fucking duel after. It's just a weak slap. Then he gets his award, and then it's over. I'm like, nah, somebody's got to die. I like
the one where they pause and his hands like this.
I also want to say, and I got some pushback from this, but I stand by it. If a man slaps you, it's go time. You cannot allow anyone on earth to slap you and not fucking go immediately. So and everyone's saying, well, it's, time and place, it's setting. You're on the stage at the Academy Awards or Oscars or whatever it was. Security didn't come, dude. Like homeboy waltzed up there, bitch slaps you, and then goes and slow walks his candy ass right back to the seat. Like I am ground and pounding homeboy until security comes and takes him off of me. I don't understand this. I don't even understand how we've got to a point in culture where you could just slap a man and he doesn't do shit back. Like what the fuck? And he didn't even make another joke. He didn't even say. He didn't even like clown on his wife again. Like at least clown on his wife again. Damn.
Yeah, I always double down.
I can see it either way. Personally, I would do that. But I can get where Chris Rock is coming from. For one, let's be real, he's not going to win that fight with Will, likely. But I mean, now if that happened,
you wouldn't respect him more if he tried, though.
I guess so. I mean, I get it though. He was hired for a job. It would have completely derailed everything. But
he played Muhammad Ali, though. Let's be real, guys.
Yeah, he knows how to
played Muhammad Ali, exactly. And he's lost a lot of that muscle mass. Let me say, though, if Will Smith had just came off of shooting Muhammad Ali, maybe you let him slap you because he was a big boy after that shoot. But today, he ain't shit. Like, Chris could still fucking get in there and throw a couple body shots before security separates him.
I mean, I would have hit him for sure. If he had done that to me, I would have fucking... And, the funny thing is I actually think, like, actually Chris Rock might have actually done all right in that exchange because I don't think Will was expecting anything in return. I think he expected
Clearly
because of
not. He didn't keep his guard up for
Yeah.
shit. He's just like, and then he just like turns his back on you. You don't turn your back on a man you just slapped. It is go time, son. Like, especially when he starts walking away after you get slapped. Like, I would fucking go after his backside if I'm the
Martin kick his ass off the stage.
Somebody please isolate that clip and post that shit on Twitter. Go after his backside.
Oh, that part. Okay.
Oh shit.
I don't even know what the fuck you mean by this, dude.
Oh, God.
I love you though.
Probably be slapping the shit out of them and turning their cheek the other way.
Yeah,
By the way, I
maybe
didn't do my
slap
normal
back.
intro since this is sort of weird because Kyle was running this show, but that's one of my sponsors. Go check out his podcast, Daniel 3. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about here, though. I get what Turn the Other Cheek is. But
If you're gonna plug him, at least say the name of the podcast. No one's
Yeah.
gonna
Oh,
know.
Daniel. What is it? Daniel 3, Biblical Anarchy.
Biblical
right?
Anarchy, yeah.
Yeah,
I know,
yeah.
but I'm just making sure the audience does.
Appreciate the money.
As far as I could tell, it did not look like he was fucking ready for that slap at all. Like
No, he was caught. He was caught off guard. Why would you? Why would
sure.
you possibly expect one of the most famous actors ever to come up and slap you over a pretty mundane joke? Crazy.
I think that's part of why he didn't do anything either. I think he was part of just like confused because I don't think don't get me wrong. Yeah, it could be staged. Sure, there's that possibility, which then would also suggest why he didn't do anything. But on the other flip side, I can completely get in like a just being bewildered, like what the fuck just happened? Because I don't think he was expecting that.
That's
like,
true. That's true.
Yeah.
And especially given the setting and just being like, okay, there's no way Will. Like that's why he leans in and he goes with the Chris Rock smile because he's just waiting. Like he knows it's a bit. Like he thinks he knows it's a bit, and then all of a sudden, wham! I'd be like, oh shit, yeah. So I guess that's really like the only justification. I'm just saying if he didn't do it because he didn't think he could win a fight against Will, that's not acceptable. Like the only justification I will accept is that he was just so caught off guard. That's why he didn't squab.
Yeah. Yeah, I could get that even for me. Like if I was fully aware of what was about to happen, yeah, I'd fucking throw down. But like, who the fuck would expect at the Oscars you're gonna get fucking hit? Or
but if some rando slaps you in a bar, you don't expect it. You're still immediately going. Like that's my thesis.
I get what you mean now, Daniel. By the way, it took me a second.
if he would have been like going after his wife really like hardcore with jokes, and then he approached him in that way.
I like how you clarified it.
It was because it wasn't even a joke. It was like he was making. I don't know what the fuck he was saying, some dumb shit. But then I'd be like, then her husband's coming up to me. I'd have my guard up. But he didn't really say much. So it was like
he said he was looking forward to G.I. Jane too because G.I. Jane, that one bitch, fucking shaved her head and filmed the movie. But
that's what I mean. That was light though. That's like
I just think
so
it was
light.
Small, yeah. And now if like he would have started going in on her, then it'd be a different story. But yeah, I mean it was like just like a one-off kind of joke, and then he tried to get like a little bit more of a laugh about it, and then he kind of went up and bitch slapped the shit out of him. It's kind of funny that he announced it too. Oh well, Will Smith just slapped the shit out of me.
Yeah. I
can even get it being offended by the joke, but it wasn't really that bad.
Well, of course you could be offended by the joke. You don't assault someone over a fucking joke though. And he screams, "Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth." And Chris just goes like, "I will." And I'm like, no, dude. You don't like that's where I almost even more than not immediately fighting him. Yeah. I'm more bothered by the fact that he goes, I will. Like he's like, message received, sir. Like I will not talk about your wife anymore.
Yeah, that was a little gay.
Yeah, he totally bitched in that moment. What do you guys think was more emotional for Will Smith? Him putting down his dog at the end of I Am Legend, or him slapping Chris Rock?
I mean, the dog, obviously.
Honestly, I think his entire speech at the end. I don't. Did any of you three see it?
I saw like bits.
I didn't care.
Okay.
Did you watch the Oscars, Clint?
No, I never do.
Okay, because I would say we have a fucking problem if you actually watch.
Come on. I didn't even bring up. Heterosexual. There was a tit slip at the exact moment that happened.
I saw you. I saw you post
dude.
that.
And the funny thing is, like, no one that got completely overlooked because of this. Like,
hey, a what?
A nip slip. There was a fucking titty popped out. It was a Venus, I think, Serena, or not Venus, Serena, Venus Williams.
Venus Williams titty popped out. What the fuck?
Titty popped out. Yeah.
Chocolate
titty popped out. I'm not like
Well-
full on pop out, but Nip came out, you know, which I mean, whatever, it's not that provocative, but like, you know, that's enough to get the internet going usually. But like,
Yeah.
you know, all you homos got caught up in this fucking gay ass slap. So
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. If you're interested in sleeping with Venus Williams, you might be homosexual.
yeah, I can see that, dude. I'm not wrong. She looks like a tranny that's doing a halfway decent job of pulling it off. But like in a hot way, like I don't know. Like I'm on the
No, not a hot way. How dare you?
She's ahead
I'd
of her
smash,
time
dog.
with all this transgender sports stuff.
You know she can throw it down. It's like that meme where they show like how certain people make out or whatever, and it's like the woman holding him up against the fence. And
David Brady's saying, why was anyone watching the Oscars instead of my show? Hey, none of us were watching the Oscars. We're all just Twitter addicts, and we all saw the clips. That's all that happened. Literally, I think probably 99% of the people that had to take on this were not watching the Oscars. I don't think anyone really watched.
Get out of here, Brady. We're doing grown shit.
Yeah, little fucking
Adults are speaking. Yeah, my take
adults are speaking about cuckoldry. Get the fuck out of here.
This was a slap that woke everybody up to the fact that the Oscars were occurring. So I kind of want to ask you guys, do you think that there's any point where somebody saying something warrants you slapping the shit out of them?
Yes.
Oh,
Like,
this is a
where-
nap
where-
violation stuff.
Yeah. When is it okay to violate the nap and slap the shit out of somebody? Do you think there's a clear line where something's over the line?
Obviously threats, but if we're gonna exclude threats, you know, then like I don't know. I technically by nap concerns, like if you exclude threats, I struggle to think of something that would. If we're going nap now, like if you're just saying like what would you do yourself? Because I mean, I'm not saying I strictly adhere to the nap at all times. I will fully admit, like, yes, that was unlibertarian, whatever. But like, I did it. I don't give a fuck. So I don't know. Yeah, sure. There are
I have
situations.
a handful of words that I don't allow to be said to me, and if anyone wants to fight me, approach me and call me a pussy. We're fighting. Call me a bitch. We're fighting. Those are kind of like those are the top two, pussy or bitch. Like that it's basically signaling. It's not it's not an overt threat, but it might as well be, because I think any man, at least men that grew up in my era, like if you say that to them, that means that you want to fight them. So if they fight you, expect it. And that's kind of my line.
Top.
Yeah. I mean, I would probably. Oh, sorry. I would say in that situation, I'd probably purposely provoke them, because it's like I think even just tactically, it's better to make them make the first move, depending on the situation. Generally speaking, you know, let them fuck up. I know, maybe it's just because I have like a little bit of MMA and wrestling background. I always like taking people's inertia and using it against them, especially if you're prepared for it. But you know, I could not disagree more. If you have an opportunity for first strike and you take it, the fight is usually over. So
Cobra Kai. First strike hard, bro.
Strike hard, strike fast.
Throat punch.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't say it's a word. I'd say it's a proximity, like a physical distance. You can say a whole bunch of things, but once you get into like a certain space, like a certain range, I'm just gonna take a step back. I'm not gonna slap you, but I'm gonna, you know, we're gonna act like we're gonna be fighting. Yeah, we are fighting now. I might punch you, but it's just about like I can't let you get that close. Like I see guys do this shit all the time. They go chest to chest. They like push each other. That's the dumbest thing in the world, man. If you want to fight me, let's square up. I'm taking a step back, square up, and let's fucking dance a little bit.
I feel like there's so much nuance to this. It really is like there is like you look at them, you feel out their body language, you feel out everything. There's so much more to it than just the words. So it is like I mean, me and Clint are saying different things, but at the same time, we might even be saying the same things. It really is just a matter of like there's so many different factors that play into it.
It's the energy too. Like you can feel it when someone is trying to instigate a physical altercation. And this is what I'm talking about, obviously, when I'm saying which words would be my red line. If someone approaches me and they get within feet and they start saying shit like that, then I think it's kind of a given that it's go time. But if they're across the room and they say some shit, I'll probably just talk back. Like I probably wouldn't.
I'll tell you how,
because I'm not
how
actually being
full of shit. Because when I met him in Florida like a couple months ago, I called him a bitch and he gave me a hug. So it's not. It's about the energy.
Yeah, well, it's the brotherhood, man. If I'm friends with someone and they're talking shit to me, you can say pretty much anything to me and I won't go there. But I'm talking about people who if you have either a past where you know that you're like kind of on the outs and you kind of expect something to pop off, or if it's just some drunk dude in a bar that like gets in your face and says some crazy shit. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just not the guy. I'm not the guy that's going to accept that stuff. And I got someone in the chat saying, "Damn, Clint, that's kind of bitch shit, dude."
Yeah,
well,
feel
then
like that might be a
don't
joke.
call me a bitch to my face, and we don't have a problem. It's pretty simple.
I can't tell if it's a joke or not. Like it's one of those ones that are in the line. I can't tell if he's just joking with you because he called you a bitch.
I don't know, but he's anonymous, so he should stay that way.
I've seen a lot of people get in bar fights around where I live, and like I do not know what the other motherfucker knows that's sitting a couple seats down from me. So I generally do not fuck with people I don't know just because I don't want to be that guy. That gets
no, I mean maybe that's kind of sort of what I was getting at too. Like, I mean, you've done a lot of boxing. I've done like wrestling and like jiu-jitsu and shit. So like, I don't know, maybe the mentality is different with boxing because there's definitely something like a first strike. But at the same time, is like you never know. So it's like I'm gonna take every avenue I can to avoid a conflict, because I know from the years of wrestling I did, there were so many people that I look at them and you square them up and you're like, I mean, don't get me wrong, there are certain people you can square up and be like, dude, I would fucking destroy you. But there is like, there are some people that you look at and you're like, I think I could take you, and then they just dominate you. Like, I've had so many people when I wrestle that just like, they're just skinny fat, like nothing impressive. And like, this is when I actually knew my shit like pretty well. Like I've always been kind of a buff dude, like even in high school, but like there is definitely something in knowing technique, stuff like that, where like you can have a guy that you're like, you would normally think like just be squaring up, you'd be all right with, that will fuck you up. Like it really is not that simple.
it's a roll of the dice defending your manhood, but it's the same thing with warfare. Like you go to war and you don't know. I mean, you could be the best soldier and you can catch a mortar and not even have a chance to actually fire a shot. So it's like anything's possible, but ultimately,
I guess that's kind of my point. I mean, I don't know if there was a Freudian slip, but I don't really care about defending my manhood. I have nothing to prove to anyone. But now, like at the same time, like
I do.
For me, I
do care about defending my manhood. I don't know how anyone can.
Clint.
But there's like a line. There's like a line between defending your manhood and like this is going to escalate to violence, whether I want it to or not, and I have to react. Because like, don't get me wrong, like I'm very 0 or 100. If I'm in a situation where I feel like I'm in danger, I'm gonna fuck you up so fucking hard. But if I have any way to get out of it, I will. Like that's just how I am. Like I don't see any need for conflict. You know. For
the record, I will try and diffuse a situation, and I will try and not fight almost all the time. Like it's not actually what I'm trying to do. It's not even what I'm about. But I also am not the type to go up and say crazy shit to people. If you're the type of person to do that, then you have to expect that I'm going to be the type of person to defend myself, and I will do it aggressively. You know, like I'm going to make sure that there is a line, like, especially now that I am getting to be a little bit more of a public figure. If I have some fucking crazy person that gets up in my face and starts talking shit, like, I just want people to know you're not going to get away with it. Like, there is going to be a price to be paid, and I'm not going to just be like, turn the other cheek until, I'm destroyed. Like, no, it's not going to happen.
That's not even a manhood thing. That's a utilitarian argument to prevent further conflict. Kind of.
Well, exactly right. Exactly right. It's like it's precedent setting. I'm like letting people know, hey, I'm not the guy. Don't do it. You could talk shit to Toad. Leave me alone.
I know it sounds silly, but like my Twitter philosophy very much carries over to real life. I'm very 0 or 100, but at the same time, like I will immediately cut you. I will very much cut you out of my life real quick if you fuck up with me. So I'm quick on the block. It's the same deal. Like I'm not gonna set a precedent if you can treat me a certain way. Like go ahead.
Let me ask you guys this.
Can I add one quick thing too? I am actually much more quick to fight for my significant other than I am for myself. Like if you say something really aggressive and crazy to like a girl I'm with, like not even necessarily a significant other, just a woman in general. Like I will defend women way more aggressively than I will myself. So I just wanted to add that caveat.
Yeah. So Clint, you said like the modern warfare, like you have a soldier, no matter how good he is, like just get a shell dropped on his head. And it kind of like sparked this. I have this recurring thought all the time in my head about like the days of, I don't know, like Achilles, where you have just a dude that's just a fucking badass swordsman, and he's just in every war. And when the other guys see him on the battlefield, they're like, oh, shit. And he just kills everyone. How fucking do you ever think about how crazy that is? That, like, one guy could be just that good, stand out good, and kill, like, everyone in the battlefield.
You
That's
know
like
he's probably fucking so many bitches, to bring up an earlier point.
actually that guy, Achilles was fucking dudes. So
Hell, dude, he got to the point where women couldn't even control. He had to just fuck holes. So he didn't care.
taking all the holes he could get, apparently.
Bro, if you're
yeah.
that gifted, you take whatever you want. At that point, you're like, hey, I want all the dudes. Bring them out, bring them around.
Testosterone's to the roof. He's just like, dude, I cannot even. I don't even. It's just you like from a utilitarian perspective. I just gotta take every hole I can get. Like this, I gotta control the testosterone, keep it moderated.
Well,
you know,
Rogan
keep
always
his
talks
balls on
about
empty.
Rogan always talks about that one samurai who had like over 100 confirmed sword battle kills. I'm forgetting his name right now. But yeah, I mean, the fact that there was ever human beings that like walk the earth like that is really hard to fathom. I mean, like what's really weird is that today the only people that have that kind of body count are like drone operators. And they're
Like, that's like in a night.
Yeah,
like
but I'm saying like they have like Cheeto fingers, and they're like they've taken out as many lives as like the greatest samurai to ever live. It's fucking weird.
have you guys heard of the dude who got like confirmed kills? I think it was either World War I or World War II with a long sword and a long bow, or a broadsword and a long bow in like World War I or World War II. And I think his name was like Jack Mad Dog Churchill. He was the only person with confirmed kills with bows, and he would typically bring a bagpipe into battle.
Holy shit.
It really is. Like, if you ever get bored, go to Wikipedia. Like, look, his whole life is just like, what the fuck? And he like had to be an officer. I think he was British. He was like the British military. Like, he legit would like he took over like bunkers and shit with like just a sword and a bow.
As a libertarian, I'm supposed to be anti-war, which I am. I actually have the anti-war shirt on, and I'm supposed to be anti-laws. But if we're gonna go to war, let's make laws where you got to go with like fucking swords. Like, forget about all this stuff because it's so impersonal. I could shoot you from across the field, and you could be like the most skilled marksman and the best person on your command, and you just get hit with a stray bullet like that, like deflects off or something. Yo, man, go in there with the sword and like really like get this personal. That would be fucking nuts. And I bet you there'd be less war.
This is a dude.
There would definitely be less war, but then the most populous country would win. Like China could win every war then, because it would just be a billion Chinese dudes out there chopping everybody up.
It is pretty gay if you think about how war is like, you know, it's like drones, guns, shit like that. Whereas like, because like you could just be some 110-pound woman who's just really good with a fucking gun or whatever.
Whoa, you can't say that because women aren't good at anything.
No, they aren't. But you know, but
imagine
you get my point.
Hey, they're good at things. They're just not
man.
better than men at anything.
But now, if we take it back to swords, like somebody like me has a chance.
Michael Phelps broke a few world records, but Michelle Phelps could break a whole ton more.
Did you guys see the girl stuck in the washing machine? That shit was so funny.
Yeah.
You didn't see it? I don't know how she got in there.
Poilu Paradise says Cheeto Fingers is my samurai name. I fucking love it.
I know.
May not be
Definitely
good
would be
for
cool.
a sword.
Just the quick addition. I rewatched because Ashton had never seen it. I rewatched The Patriot and Braveheart over the past week, so I may be a little bit aggro right now, and perhaps like I wouldn't be so crazy in person. But I will say it is very funny that the nature of battle has changed so dramatically. Like even as a kid, you know, Terminator 2, Terminator, the movies in the 80s and early 90s, it was like this is some distant future where you have robots handling all of our conflict. And like, no, it's now. Like the vast majority of kills are coming from, you know, mechanized warfare. It's no longer hand-to-hand combat, even close to it. So I don't know. It's a really dangerous future, because once you get to that point, it just becomes like whoever has technological superiority basically can win any war. And then I think that there's something to be said for having the country with the strongest men winning a war is probably better for humanity than it is to have just the most technologically advanced country winning a war. I think that's an interesting thought I just had. I've never even thought about it before.
Yeah, now you don't have to you, like Jose was saying, war's so essentially impersonal because you can kill somebody from, you know, forever away. That kind of takes I hate to use the word in this context, but like the intimacy out of it, because you wouldn't want to kill somebody one-on-one unless you had like significant reasons to. Like, you don't look at a normal person just walking down the street and say, oh, you know, I'll fuck them up. At least I don't. So, could you imagine doing that in a war? Just you're told to go fight for your country, and you see these people, they're just normal people. Would you want to go up and kill them if you had to stab them?
Yeah,
No.
most people don't even want to kill what they eat. They're
Right.
terrified of that. So yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, I think that's the scary part about the nature of the propaganda we've experienced over the past couple of years, in that they're trying to otherize conservatives and libertarians and white people, straight people, to the point that like violence is acceptable against them. Like I could definitely imagine, had it been, say, Patton Oswalt, well, maybe not Patton Oswalt because he looks like a lesbian, but some other white comic that goes up there. Like if it was Ricky Gervais who had made a joke about Jada, and Will went up there and slapped him, I'm sure that it would have been, this is white supremacy. This is like the black man's finally fighting back. Like I'm sure that narrative would have been out there big time.
Do you think?
Patton kept his bitch on lock, dog. So,
Do you think
if anyone gets that
Goddamn.
you don't fuck around at all.
Oh, I just remember that she died. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, the rumors they killed her. I do want to say on the war thing, the Industrial Revolution and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. That's all I got to say on that.
Correct. Yes.
I see where you're going.
The 19th Amendment as well.
Yes, I agree completely.
And our education system, like economically, the fact that we have all of these people, like millions of people that are buying lock, stock, and barrel, the idea that we aren't experiencing inflation as much as we are rampant collusion amongst all businesses simultaneously. Like these people are so fucking dangerously stupid. I do not know how we survive.
Greed causes inflation.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You saw that, Clint. I actually shared it with you, and then you, I think, quoted him or some shit. I forget that one dude. Is that dude that like he's been on with Dave Smith a few times on not on his show, but on Kennedy. He said that shit about like
Dave destroys him when they're on together. I love it.
Yeah, it's retarded. And he said some shit that this was the rising gas prices were. He said two things. He said speculation, and the other one he said was price gouging, which is like it's funny.
And he also said that there's no shortage of oil and gas. Not taking into consideration that prices reflect future demand, and the fact that you would have prices rise today to increase production now so that you don't have shortages in the future. It's like this is all so obvious, and I just can't believe that this type of ignorance is propagated by blue checks that get. He had like 12,000 likes on that tweet or something insane.
Yeah.
It's like
anyone says price gouging, I immediately disregard your opinion because it's like
this is the way.
It is the most retarded. It's like, well, then why don't you just set the prices high all the time? Like, okay, like there's no market forces.
Unless you're in a monopolized industry, you can't gouge unless you're colluding amongst all competitors, in which case you would have to believe that every food producer and every grocery store is colluding simultaneously. You are the biggest you are a bigger conspiracy theorist than Alex Jones at that point. You're crazy.
Infowars.com.
Well, yeah, speaking of Alex Jones, like what you were saying about the technological warfare and how we've gotten so advanced at killing each other, the real war is the information war. And to me, it's so it's information war. Yeah, to me, it's worse. It's like I look at things like how Jordan Peterson would say, like he liked to compare like feminine energy to masculine energy, the yin and the yang, this kind of stuff. And when I look at like modern, at just conventional war, whatever's going on in Ukraine or what was happening in Yemen and Iraq, this is like a masculine thing where we're killing people, they're killing some of our people, they're shooting. There's actual physical conflict. The feminine war is what's been going on in America and pretty much now the whole world globally with this COVID stuff. This information, like this pestering in your ear. It's like what a high school girl would do to another high school girl. And to me, I'd rather get into a fist fight with you, be done with it. One of us gets hurt, knocked out, or we tie or whatever, we just squash it, it's over. This feminine shit, like, it goes on forever. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's just devious. And that's what I feel.
This kind of gets
never stop.
This kind of gets back to the Will Smith thing a little bit because it kind of plays into intersectional dynamics. Is that women pick up on they look for the emotion in the conversation, right? So that's why you hear character assassination oftentimes come from women when they're talking about other women, and they try to disqualify other women by slut shaming them, right? They say, "Oh, she's a slut." What's she's trying to tell you? She's trying to tell you that that's a bad option for your paternity, so don't be with her, right? Whereas men will be much more physical, a lot more faster.
Well, and I just had this guy on my show who's running for Congress as a libertarian in Arizona, and I was pushing him because I really want Libertarian Party candidates to be as good as they can possibly be, because I think that this moment is like it's fleeting, and we need them to be fucking great.
Yes.
So I was pushing him on running on prosecuting Fauci and anybody who was responsible for basically abolishing the Bill of Rights for the past 2 years. Because I think, personally, I think that is the libertarian position. I know it's a statist position, but if you're going to be a libertarian candidate, you're already playing in the statist mindset. So like, why not use the one power you have? Like I was saying, why would you not run on prosecuting John Brennan and the other CIA scumbag that lied about spying on all of us? What's that?
Was it Mike Pompeo?
No,
him too though.
yeah, all of them. But I'm just saying, like, it was Brennan and the other CIA guy. I can't remember his name.
I thought you were going to bring up your school shooter guest. That seemed more pertinent.
That was a disaster. Jesus Christ!
I was so blown away. Like, what the fuck is this shit?
I was like, hey, what is your relation to this topic? And he's just like, well, I was once accidentally labeled as a potential school shooter, and I was like, and we're ending the show. Jesus Christ! But anyway,
you'd be a pretty good politician. Not gonna lie.
I was just like, I just really want anybody who's running for office, if you're a libertarian in particular, I want to instill, and this is kind of what Top was talking about with the feminine versus masculine energy. I think it's more masculine to say we are going to punish people that break the Bill of Rights, the social contract with us, that you are going to respect our rights. Well, if you don't, then you're going to pay a serious price. And his counter to that was, no, we will use reputational damage. And I was like, brother, what are you talking about?
It's feminine.
Well, that is feminine, but also it doesn't work. All of these guys are now correspondents for CNN, and if they're not that, then they're fucking K Street lobbyists who are making millions of dollars per year. There is no punishment for these people. He's like, the best thing you could do is vote them out of office. I was like, no, the best thing you could do is put them in prison for the rest of their life and send a fucking message to all these politicians that are ruining our lives that you're going to pay a price if you do the same thing. Am I crazy? Tell me I'm crazy.
No, not at all. And
I don't think you go far enough.
Yeah, this is the thing about libertarian candidates, right? You're already so unlikely to win. You might as well put all your fucking cards on the table.
Thank you. This is what I keep saying.
Right. That's going to attract people. People want to hear that bold message. And whether it be a libertarian or Republican, but if you are a libertarian, people are already skeptical. So you might as well just fucking lay your full sack on the table and say, this is what it is. And we're going for the fucking jugular. You know, if you like it, here I am. If not, then, whatever. But
why do they play it safe? Why? Who is it appealing to? I don't understand.
Incentives. I think it's the way the incentives work. Just so, like, I know they kind of model off of other people. This is one of my main arguments against like involving it all, because it's what it ends up devolving into. It's like, it's just people don't go hard enough, because it's like, I don't know, like ideally in my perfect world, the Mises Caucus goes so fucking hard, they get labeled a terrorist organization, and they fucking, then I'd be like, you know what? Fucking salute. Like,
but my thing is that I know that you'll know the Mises Caucus is doing well when they're labeled a white nationalist organization or something to that kin.
Well,
That's
there's a reason.
Join.
There's a reason why guys like Clint and Dave and Jose and like a handful of other people stand out when they're saying things that are bold that other people are afraid to say. So in a world of the never-ending Oedipal mother, you need some actual masculine energy. You need a father to come in and set order. Not to trash women and the feminine energy. There's a time and place for it, but it's run amok in the society. And yeah, we need some order big time. And unfortunately, I think we spoke about this in the chat, but like things will swing back. And like, I guess you could say the right is representing that masculine energy now. Things are going to swing back to this masculine energy or to the right very hard. And it's not going to be good. You're going to end up with like Nick Fuentes as president, and it's going to be really bad for a lot of people.
To O'Donnell, the ideal, I think, is actually work camps, which is Conkin's idea, which I know it sounds counterintuitive because you're like, you want that revenge, the gallows, the whatever, because prison doesn't suffice. Like, it's kind of this is the ultimate, and a lot of libertarians kind of come to this conclusion. We get like deep into like criminal justice type theory when it comes to ANCAP stuff, is that a lot of them kind of do end up coming to some sort of restitution type thing. And if you're incapable of providing restitution, then well, guess what? You got to go to a work camp. Guess what, buddy?
What restitution could Fauci possibly provide? And I want to be very
agree.
clear. I want to be very clear. This is not about revenge. This is about setting a precedent that you cannot do this to us. That's what I'm actually after. I don't care about Fauci. He's so old, he'll be dead soon anyways. I don't care about what happens to him physically, even though it'd be hilarious. Moreover, I just want politicians to know you can't do this. That's it.
This is like
that's all.
This is like the argument. So many people are like, oh well, when they say that the vax mandates were illegal, then we'll sue them. It's like you already took their poison. Like the damage is done. There's no restitution to be paid. You can't untake that. God knows what it can do to you. That something else has to happen. It has to be more drastic. And I think that the light post in Times Square needs some decorating. Just gonna say.
I mean, okay, we joke about this, but I am dead serious. I don't think that's the way to go, because then I think it ends up swinging the wrong way. You start getting things confused. You start fucking hemming up the wrong people. Things get out of hand. In an ideal situation,
trials make sense. Why not have like genuine trials?
Nuremberg trials,
like war crimes. I mean, and Nuremberg, like that didn't go the wrong way. Like you punish people who committed war crimes. I think that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, prison I think is like okay. I don't think killing people is ideal. But then work camps is the ideal in my opinion. And don't get me wrong, with somebody like Fauci, if we could get our ANCAP, Agorist, whatever the fuck ideal of an interco fucking justice system, like yes, he would never be able to work it off, but he would spend the rest of his life working it off.
Yeah, but Jose, the work camps from the Nuremberg trials were Operation Paperclip.
Hell yeah, dog.
And look where that got us. So I don't know, man.
You can't have two heads, either men lead or women lead. Which do you want? Women serve an important role, but they can't be that. Well, I'd say generally speaking, I agree with that. Like if we're going to like make broad generalizations, yes, usually men are probably more suited to lead, generally speaking. Well, but I mean, obviously there are situations in which women would be better.
I think it's too much of a blanket statement, because you can have leadership in different aspects of a relationship. Like I think that women are better suited for the lead when it comes to child rearing, and the man is better suited for leadership when it comes towards security and earning and protecting and things of that nature. So I think that you can still have kind of an equal separation of powers amongst the relationship, and that's probably why that's how relationships have been structured historically, is that's exactly the natural formulation for a healthy relationship. And we're just so disconnected from that for a litany of reasons that I don't know.
Generally speaking, women are better multitaskers too, in my opinion, whereas men are better at setting their mind to one task. So you utilize that depending on the situation. I think there is something too, generally speaking, a man being the head, the household, biblically speaking or whatever, because it's like, yeah, the woman is better able to, but then like say she comes to you with like, this is what we should do. You're better able to evaluate that one specific thing and give a yay or nay. Whereas the woman is much better at evaluating multiple things going on at once. It's kind of like the managerial role versus like the head role type deal or whatever. So
why do you always think you used to hear guys in like high school always saying that they need to learn with their hands, because that's the way we learn. That's the way kind of our brains are wired, is to go out and do stuff. Whereas, women can sit down, they can read stuff, they can interpret things that way. And obviously, there's going to be exceptions to the rule, whatever, but it's generally the way we like to do things.
There's a reason that the education system is geared. Well, I mean, in my opinion, why every job is now geared towards the education system, and the education system it favors women. I think something like in 80% of women would graduate, 40% of men would graduate from a college or even high school. Like it's similar numbers like that. And to me, it's like, obviously the push for diversity, this has been going on for a long time and we're all catching on, but it's way too late in the game. So like Kyle just said, men will learn with their hands. And there's actually not that many trade schools going on right now, they should be overflowing. Mike Rowe does a great job of pushing people towards that. But our society, our feminine society, pushes everybody towards college. And we're generalizing again, but this regurgitation of information, it seems like women are more apt to it, to just learn and obey and do this kind of thing. Listen, I'm not making the rules. I'm citing you these loose statistics, but you can look them up. They graduate at a much higher rate than men.
Yeah, they've shown that women tend to be more women polymaths, whereas there tend to be more men geniuses. like men are, and that kind of relates to my point earlier, where it was like men are better at specializing in one thing, whereas women are better at multitasking in multiple things. So tend to be, I mean, don't quote me, I couldn't source you shit at all, but I do vaguely remember some shit, multiple things, some rabbit trail went on forever ago about how they have shown statistically that there are more women polymaths than men, and a polymath is someone who's an expert or a relatively good expert in multiple fields, and then there are more men who are experts in their given field. So
right.
It's just
there's lots of really smart men and lots of really dumb men,
yeah.
and most women tend to just kind of fall along the middle, right? That's the way it pans out when you look at people's IQ, and not that IQ is a perfect measure.
That's why they're all midwits.
And the point I was kind of getting at is if you look at the educational system and like even just high school, let alone college, you look at all the different subjects that they have. So you have like math, science. I don't even can think of all the fucking other ones. It's been so long since high school. But you like your normal semester will have like 8 classes, and it's like, you know, it makes sense for a woman to generally be like average to slightly above average in every single one, whereas a man might excel in one or the other.
Can you click Daniel's comment, because I want to dismantle his argument and show him why he'll never be on Tower Gang. Being the head doesn't mean being more important or superior or unequal. The head needs the hands need the feet. All parts work together. Hey, dumb. Yeah, you can live without your hands or your feet. You can't live without your head. The head is more important. You lose. You're out of here. Kick him out. Get his chat out of here. Anyways, I'm just
the fuck out of here. I think what he means is like just delegation. So if you have guys that, like we're saying, guys are super specific in one topic, especially autistic guys. We specialize on one thing, and if you get somebody that's a great delegator, you can get a fucking company going. You can get a really good organization going. Just put the right pieces in and get it moving. You know,
I want to extrapolate on the feminine energy thing that Top's been bringing up repeatedly. No, it's important. You have, women tend to vote for larger government, and you also now have women who are the predominant teaching roles in public schools, and then you also have the government, complete immersion with it, or like the complete takeover of schooling. So all of it is part of the same feminine cycle, essentially. Cycle, that gets weird. But you have the feminine energy that leads to greater government, and then you have the feminine energy that ends up corrupting the education system. And now you have all of these people, all of these young men being funneled through higher education, which actually isn't higher education. It's actually lower. It actually makes you dumber because you become less capable of caring for yourself and producing for a functioning society. So yeah, I think all the way around, like, even though I love women and I think that they absolutely serve a tremendous role in our society, like they're kind of like a peacetime role, and like we are entering a wartime role, and I mean that both metaphorically and potentially literally. So like you're going to have a reversion to the mean, and I'm very concerned about how ugly that gets, because we in particular, the United States, have become so feminized, and many of our enemies who are also nuclear armed are not feminized. So I don't know how we possibly prevail in that situation.
Well,
I do want to touch on Daniel's thing real quick. I think the issue me and probably Clint as well have with is it seems to be you're trying to make a blanket statement, and I would say that's generally speaking you're correct, but that's not always the case. I think, because don't get me wrong, there are certain situations that I let my wife completely be the head unquote of, and if anything, I get annoyed when she brings this to my attention. Like, I don't fucking care. Like, you handle this. I have no input whatsoever, unless this is somehow impacting our lives. And even then, I think there are probably relationships where the woman is the head, and you know what? Maybe the dude's a fucking retard, and that's probably proper. I don't fucking know. Like, every situation is different, and I'm not even saying that's bad. Like, I mean, I'd say generally speaking, that's probably not going to be a good situation. That's how you end up with a Jada and Will thing to tie it back to the original. But
Will's a fucking, he's a producer, he's an earner, he can do whatever he wants with his life.
Is he though, or is it Jada?
No, it's him, and there's some sort of like internal turmoil or damage or something that he has from his childhood that would allow him to be in this position to this day, in my opinion. Yeah. I don't think that you would permit that, given the options and resources he has in his life, to allow himself to be destroyed publicly by his wife's behavior. There's something going on there.
Yeah, but I mean, like we were talking about people who blame gas prices on greed and things like this, or look at Joe Biden and say he doesn't have dementia. They can't put those two pieces in their brain together because it'll destroy their whole life. So if this propaganda that's so deep rooted, like Clint was talking about with the pathway of woman in our cathedral, or this cycle of woman, I mean, that's been going on for so long, it's probably ingrained in this guy's head, and there's no way around it. So his wife can just do that kind of trifling shit, and he has, I don't know, nothing to say about it. It's, yeah, I don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
Daniel's continuing to defend his stuff in the comment. We're not even disagreeing with you, man. I was just
kidding.
kidding.
You hate women.
I was kidding. I was kidding because your metaphor sucked, because you obviously need the head more than you do the hands or the feet. That's the only thing I was trying to say. I agree. Women have better skills when it comes to certain things, and I love feminine women. I don't even want masculine women in my life. Like,
it's like 3-6 Mafia said, I love having sex, but I'd rather get some head. So
Skeet.
That was Lil Jon, but both are prophets.
We hear a lot of women kind of market themselves as today. Oh, look at me. I'm 35 years old. I have my own business. I have my car. That they're a man at this point. And it's like, well, I don't care about that. Like, are you reliable? Are you feminine at all? Because if you're not, then, you know, well, I'll just go fuck a dude if that's what I want. If I want a dude who does what I do. No, I don't want that, though.
For the record, I respect the hell out of any woman that can go out and produce and be an entrepreneur and care for themselves. And I don't look down on it at all. I just think that it gets weird where, like, they prioritize that during their very narrow window for child rearing, and then they come out the other side of it, maybe not able to find a mate in time to, you know, or at least not a healthy dynamic for which to have those kids, if that's still an interest of theirs. And then they're like, you know, the classically depressed wine mom who's you know, voting for Joe Biden, and you're just like, look, you did this to yourself, and I'm sorry that, like, society taught you that this was the thing to do, but learn from your mistakes. Don't make everybody else the guilty party when you did this to yourself.
Yeah, look how far Clint is falling respected women. You know, what the fuck?
But when you're saying all this consecutively, Clint, does it not like put some strings together in your head, like, as if there's one person, let's just put our tinfoil hat on, if there's one person that wanted to set this agenda in motion, is this not the playbook to do it? I mean, we want to depopulate the earth, right? So we're going to occupy women during their birthing years with useless careers working for us. We want to feminize men, so we're going to fill the educational system with women who've been propagandized by us to teach.
And we're going to teach men like defective girls.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. If I wanted to do exactly what's happening now, this would be the roadmap. Yes. It's just who wrote the roadmap? Probably a man.
I've seen your wife. My wife's hotter, and I'd say Cops is pretty close too. I've seen his wife in person. She's pretty goddamn hot. I'm not gonna
whatever
lie.
Outlaw.
Thank you.
No, I agree. This is why I'm a conspiracy theorist. Is that I believe that there's no way that all of this is accidental. I can't believe that it's all accidental. I'm also not a conspiracy theorist to the extent that I believe that, like, there's coding and everything is a fucking psyop, and, like, you know, like, I don't go that far off the deep end, but I completely agree with you that, like, the formulation of society over the past 100 years has been so detrimental and so beneficial for the state. It's hard for me not to conclude that, like, well, either A, that's a natural progression, and this is just a cycle that happens over eons, and it's like that's what it is, or B, someone's been manipulating the strings of power to make it so. And I think that it's very likely, given the existence of central banks and the fact that by inflating the currency away, it makes it so that you can't earn on a single income, which puts the woman in the work world, which then destroys the family unit, and blah, blah, blah. Like it, and you just go down this line, and then you get to the point of feminization of men where they're unwilling to rise up, which is tremendously beneficial for the state. And then you get them to the point of being so feminized that they're willing to accept fucking lockdowns where you're kicked out of work and just stuck at home, and you just accept that, and you watch Netflix and eat bonbons like a big fat bitch, and you get your food delivered to you, and you're just like, hey, everything's good, and then you vote for fucking Joe Biden because you're told that if you don't, you're a racist. And that just goes back to the fact that you're such a bitch, you care about what everybody else calls you. Like, how pathetic are you? So yeah, basically what I'm saying is I agree.
Now it comes down to, like, is it greed or is it malevolence? Because I would sleep a lot better at night knowing that all the COVID stuff and all of like the societal ramifications we had is just from people that are tampering with the dollar and want more money. They want to print money and basically, you know, perform a bank heist while they can in the interim. Or is it a bigger picture and these people are just evil? They want to kill babies. They want to destroy society. This is where I'm
worse.
constantly
On babies.
I actually,
With their teeth.
I lean towards it being actually not malevolence, except for from our perspective, in that
Yes.
I think that many of these people are true believers and they think that they are stewards for the earth. I think that like the green agenda, all the depopulation agenda, the eugenicist movement, all these people, I think, believe it sincerely. And that's what makes it so concerning to me is like, yes, from our perspective, it's malevolent because you're basically supporting abortion and you're supporting genocide and all sorts of crazy shit. But I think from their perspective, they're saying, well, we can't have this many people on the planet. So I am actually looking after humanity. And that's where it gets really scary.
Well, yeah,
Well,
I saw this thing a while ago. I saw this thing a while ago.
Yeah.
Is I wish I could remember who it was because the credentials would make it a little more valid. But it was this dude. He was on video and he was talking about that. He used to be friends with one of the Rothschilds, I believe, and he was talking about how they had this like sideways conversation, and they were just kind of talking about like women's rights and shit. And like they laughed at him like, why do you think women's rights? Why do we think we give women the right to vote, et cetera, blah blah blah. And it's kind of like, well, you know, we just kind of want to equal this, blah blah blah. You know, he was kind of just being the generic person, you know, the normal, you know, thought on the matter. And then I guess the Rothschild dude just kind of like laughed at him, and they're like, what do you mean? Like, no, it's like now we got half the population, the other half of the population we can get to be tax producing individuals. We got to do, you know, like shit like that. And it is like, and while there is some aspect, and Clint brings up a good point of like, you know, from our perspective, that's malevolence. From their perspective, that's greed. Like if you're the one pulling the purse strings, it's like, well, you know, you want to keep this game going for as long as you can. So you got to play whatever moves you fucking can. So it's greed, but it really is just a matter of perspective. You know, like whether it's malevolence or not. I mean, a lot of people know I'm more of the egoist type. Morality is just kind of nonsensical to me. So it's like, yeah, that's just more or less them being greedy. And like, I mean, yeah, you can call it malevolence, but at the end of the day, that's like they're serving their monetary interests and their future monetary interests of their offspring and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So
Clint is promoting single mothers, and I have no idea why. No, that's not what I was saying at all. Yeah, Arabian pleb gets it.
Yeah, there's epic G spot. You have an epic G spot.
I do indeed.
right below the taint.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the main question is it driven by money, or is it driven by something like even worse, something spiritual that we don't like? Man, it just seems so crazy to let the world around you go to shit for a couple of dollars or like whatever. My mind isn't driven that way. Yeah, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things. So all right, so you have the biggest yacht in the world, or you have 5 yachts. You can only be on one at a time. Like why? I don't understand the greed for that kind of lifestyle, or at least kill someone. I
think there's a rational explanation in that. Like, look at the crack trade. You know, like many black drug dealers destroyed their own communities and many of their relatives by selling crack. But it's like when you're in an unhealthy economic model, you start to see degeneracy in the productive, entrepreneurial class. And I think that's actually what we're seeing, but on the corporate Fortune 500 level, where it's like this is no longer a free market by any stretch of the imagination. So what you're dealing with is very corrupt, immoral behavior, because everyone kind of like at the highest level senses that this is an end game of some sort, and so everybody is doing whatever possible to better reinforce their position of power and wealth and influence in the next era. So I think that's probably what it is. It's not even like necessarily a conscious thing as much as it is just like, fuck, this is bad. I'm gonna get my shit while I can.
Yeah, it's good good, run with the inertia of government, as most of them do. But maybe it's kind of what we were talking about earlier. I know somebody said Genghis Khan earlier, but essentially the conquest, where you can acquire all these resources, so you're a valuable person because you have all these resources. So maybe that's kind of what they're getting at, is that, hey, we're going to be the king shit a fuck mountain here, and this is our collection, and this is ours. The rest of you plebs fight it out between you guys, but the global elites will have what they want.
I guess there is something to that, because I'm not as motivated by like the money aspect, but I understand the building something and just like continuing to build it higher. That's also a masculine trait, where you build,
Right.
The tower all the way, or the Tower of Babel all the way to the top, and shoot at God. So I kind of understand that. I just don't. I just struggle with it. I struggle with if it's best case scenario, it's greed of money. Worst case scenario, we're dealing with something that we really don't understand, because it's getting fucking weird out there, man.
Yeah, and I think that there is a fair argument to be had that perhaps some of them are involved in some sort of dark arts type of shit. I just think that it gets far overstated, because there's so much incentive for otherwise decent people to take the same path. I mean, like the woke people. I don't think half of this country is demonic or satanic. I think that they're just indoctrinated into a really sick mindset, and so I don't want to say that like half of this country or half of this world are evil or satanic. I would rather believe that there is some capacity for redemption. Now, that's not to say that there isn't 1% of the people that are fucking demonic. Like, I'm sure that's true too.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you think of it as if they're under a spell, that to me that makes a little bit more sense. They're like possessed by an idea, by an ideology.
Yeah, mass psychosis, mass delusion, whatever you want to call it. I really do think that's what it is.
Jose, if you don't believe morality, how do you discern right from wrong regarding human behavior? I've talked about this before, how I perceive what morality is. I guess, this could be a long topic, but morality is kind of what I see morality as. Is it's right and wrong may not be doing it correctly, and I see morality as more subjective thing. It's kind of this loose idea. Like, morality for me is kind of a generic group of principles that I kind of live by, that I believe tend to lead me towards a more beneficial life for myself, and probably even from a collective perspective, probably from the collective. Although I don't care about that as much, I'll be real.
But isn't that exactly how morals are formed?
Yes, exactly. That's but the point is at the same time, like, this idea of the deontological type perspective of that, like, this is good and therefore I will not, or I will do it, and this is bad and therefore I won't do it, from like a moral perspective. It gets very meta when it comes to it. Basically, what it comes down to is, my very root, I'm a consequentialist, but at the same time, you can't live life going by ad hoc. So you kind of have to develop some sort of principles to kind of roughly live your life by. But if I could be convinced that those principles don't lead me towards some sort of beneficial thing for myself and those around me, obviously I would shift it. But that's where I'm at right now. I believe the trad life, ANCAP, etc., whatever, the rough group of principles that I kind of generally hold are it. But when people say like objective morality or or morals, they kind of, it's kind of baked into the cake, this idea of this, like, this idea of this objective morality. And I don't necessarily believe in that. I believe there are people, there are serial killers out there who believe for them that that is what is right. And cool, they can believe that. I don't give a fuck. I don't like that. So fuck you. I'll, if we come to terms, it's gonna be like, if he's like, well, this is what my value system. I'm like, I don't give a fuck.
That sounds like some postmodernist Thaddeus Russell bullshit, but I'm gonna let it slide. Toph was talking about oh shit, what were you talking about? Now I forgot.
Yeah, sorry. He paid me, so I had to go meta. I'm sorry.
No,
I've done this better in other episodes before. I was trying to
kind of building the Tower of Babel up, kind of talking about morality in that way, or these people are essentially going on quest.
Oh no, yeah, he was talking about how there's this alpha instinct to build something, and what I think I have is both that, but paired with like, I only feel good when I'm building something I'm actually proud of, and I can't be proud of something if I feel it's immoral. So like, if I like my past business, I was a mortgage broker. I didn't find it to be immoral at all. I just didn't find it to be as fulfilling as what I'm doing now is. So I get to pursue this with a greater level of contentment internally that allows me to give even more of myself to it. Whereas when I was a mortgage broker, I was like, yeah, this is good, and I'm making my investors money, and I'm allowing people to purchase real estate, and I'm making a good living for myself. But it didn't have almost a religious connotation of like a higher calling that I now feel, which I know people get really pissed when I talk about this. And I don't give a fuck how it makes you feel. I feel a higher calling in doing what I'm doing. So I don't know. I think that like the world would be a better place if everyone felt as if like as they were pursuing that innate masculine drive for, you know, conquest and building and producing more, that they also felt simultaneously a higher calling within that process that I think very few people get to experience.
It's interesting because I talk to people about that because I'm doing something similar. You know, I just left my old job. I'm doing something new, more of like following my passion, where there's a pay cut, but there's also unlimited growth. Whereas my old job, you know, I'm a truck driver. It's like you drive this truck 8 hours a day, park the shit up, go home. That's it. There is no, you could become a supervisor, no upward movement. And even if you did become a supervisor, this is not mine. I'm not building anything. But anyway, I talked to family members and friends about this, and some people right away, they're like, boom, clicked in. They're like, yes, I understand what you're saying. And some people find they almost like right away, I can see in their eyes, like they want to ridicule me. Like, what do you mean? You just go make money, you have a good job, go home, and it's like, are these people NPCs or have they just not like clicked on or been enlightened to this like fulfillment of life, or at least the pursuit of fulfillment of life? Because it's what else? What are we doing here? Why are we on this earth?
I love it. I think that they're not so much NPCs as they are domesticated. Like there's something about pursuing your highest calling and the risk taking that goes with entrepreneurship that is like, it's almost I don't know, like animalistic to some people. Like they view it as like, what's that?
Nature.
Yeah. But it's also, it's like once you are in that corporate environment where you get that steady paycheck and you get the 2 weeks vacation or the month vacation per year, it's almost unimaginable for some people because they have all of their creature comforts and they're like they've fulfilled they fulfilled their Maslow's hierarchy of need, and but they haven't. That's the thing, is like they've only fulfilled the bottom layer. Like they have security and they have their housing and they have their food and that's it, but they don't have that higher level of fulfillment, which is what I'm actually pursuing and what I think Top is and what a lot of people are now. And I think that's the one benefit of the lockdowns, is that a lot of people that were forced to make really big life changes ended up pursuing things that are more in line with that higher level of fulfillment. And I'm very hopeful to see what that becomes, because I think that could be kind of our salvation, is that a lot of people were just kind of going along to get along. And now, you know, a lot of really industrious people were kind of forced to reset their lives and go out and recreate their path. So I'm very interested to see what that becomes in 10, 15 years.
And to kind of touch on what I was getting at earlier, people kind of saying like not believing morality or whatever, to kind of put in terms what you just said, you know, even to throw aside whether it's right or wrong. I think even from a practical perspective, operating in this manner, like you have, Clint, or Top has, or I'm trying to get more and more move my life that way, I actually think it ends up being more beneficial in the long run, even in a practical manner, generally speaking. So that's kind of where I'm coming from, is like, don't get me wrong, there is some level of fulfillment that comes with doing the things that I kind of believe are better. But I mean, to some extent, if I could be convinced that old way of living was the way that is most beneficial for me, then I would obviously go that way. Like, but I don't, and that's why I'm not, and I'm going the other way. And even to take morality out of it, but you can obviously, you know, throw morality in there as well. It just kind of becomes more of a mishmash of how you define terms and shit.
Bro, I could go out and get a corporate job right now and make triple what I'm doing from podcasting, like easily. Yeah. So.
Earlier is that what are you building, right? If you're working a 9-to-5 job, which I do currently, you know, you wrench on cars from 7 in the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon, you go home, and then, you know, you wake up, do that 5 to 6 days a week. What have you built? You know, when you guys are building your podcast or your brand, as I'm starting to do, you're building something. You're building a legacy. You're building a name for yourself. You're building a reputation around what you want to see in the world. You just don't do that in your average 9 to 5. If you work a corporate job, if you just work on cars or whatever.
Yeah. Well,
I
I would encourage my kids to go and to do the 9 to 5 stuff, because I think that's the only way that you will get a real kick in the ass to pursue this toward. I think what we're describing, like building a business or building your, I don't know, your following or whatever you're doing, we're pursuing freedom. So maybe those people that I described as NPCs, their first value is actually not maybe, definitely their value. They don't value freedom at all. So it makes
Security.
sense for them. Yes, they value exactly. So it's freedom versus security, and they'll get neither, you know. But for my kids, I would encourage them, go work at Walgreens or something, and then when you find out that's bullshit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's why it's so important, is that when your kid is still living with you, that they go out and they get a fast food job at 16, 17 years old, or they get a construction job. They do something that sucks and pays hardly anything, so that they learn very early on, like, hey, this path is not cool. Like, you do not want to do this forever. Because that's what I got. You know, my dad put me on a fucking work site when I was 15 years old, and I just got my learner's permit, I remember. And I drove my car out there even though I wasn't supposed to, in Bakersfield, and it was 120-degree heat, and I was putting up ceiling fans in a old apartment complex that he had foreclosed on, and it was awful. It was the worst thing I've ever done in my life, and I felt like I was going to die. But because of that, I came back after that 30 days of doing that. And by the way, I worked 30 days straight in 120-degree heat. It was insane. And my dad paid me $5 an hour. So don't give me any fucking shit about me getting spoon-fed anything. So I came back after 30 days of that with like $1,000 in my pocket, because it would have amounted to no money at all. And I concluded, I was like, oh my God, like, I will do anything in my power to never have to do that again, you know? And I think that's important.
This is rich dad, poor dad.
Right.
I resonate with that a lot, because my fiance and I were going to go get our camper out this past weekend, and there was a GMC Safari van sitting in there, and they have these big old dog boxes over top of the engine. And one of my first working experiences starting into my career was taking one of those dog boxes off in 100-degree humid Pennsylvania weather outside to do a tune-up on an engine. And it was, that was like kind of one of my introductions to working on cars. So I guess with that, any closing thoughts, anyone? And if not, plugs, and we'll get on out of here. Huh?
I would just say that I don't think there's anything wrong with being a mechanic or doing any of these manual labor jobs. I think it's what we actually need a hell of a lot more of. So I'm not encouraging people not to pursue those paths as much as I am encouraging people to try and find, if it's your passion, one, then pursue it with your whole heart, or two, if it's really your passion, try and do it with an entrepreneurial bent where you can actually reap the full rewards of your efforts. Because I think the huge mistake is in thinking that by working for someone else, you're going to have a greater level of security. In truth, it's fleeting. It's illusory. It's almost imaginary. Like these businesses, if you're not running them, they could go under at any time, because you don't have a fucking clue what those books look like. So I would encourage people to take a little risk, especially if you're young, and go out there and pursue it, with everything you got, and try and create something that's meaningful, because we only get one life, at least I think.
YOLO.
Absolutely.
It's the feminine behavior that we were talking, or the feminine attitude that we were talking about. So you're almost depending on like a maternal figure to watch over you financially. Yeah, if you're a mechanic, if you're whatever, if you're a truck driver, do it to the best of your ability, and do it as if you want to make that your business, and have a corporation that's based on that. That's what I would say to anybody doing anything. And also, listen, man, if you have downtime, work on a side gig. Pick some shit up.
Yeah, no, if you're that dude who's a mechanic at some, I don't know, say you work at Jiffy Lube or whatever, some generic type, run-of-the-mill, I guess I wouldn't say corporate, but it's kind of like corporate adjacent almost. I guess it technically is corporate. But, start, trying to work that side hustle, find friends who need work here and there, your name spreads, et cetera, et cetera. Or you figured a separate side gig. Like I've got multiple gigs going on. I'm a little bit of a mechanic myself, but yeah, the entrepreneurial thing is the prime thing, because there's nothing necessarily wrong with having that 9 to 5, but it's ideal to be able to get to a point to where you're running your show. I mean, Yeah, I mean, to bring in economy terms, there's something to the wage slave thing. I don't think it's literally a wage slave, but there's something to that. It's best to not be in that spot. It's ideal.
Some people, maybe it is for some people.
Support your local entrepreneurs. Like, go to toplobsta.com and pick up some fucking swag.
You know, maybe there are some people who are supposed to do 9 to 5, but I think the people who are listening to this, you should probably be looking for a way out of it.
Yeah.
Don't be the herd.
Because if you're already of our mindset, I really think that you are built for entrepreneurialism, because you have already demonstrated that you're not a go along to get along type of person. You're already disagreeable as fuck. You're already courageous in the sense that you're thinking for yourself. You've already bucked the trend during the biggest, most unbelievable psyop for the past 2 years, and spoken out while everybody else was telling you that you're a fucking a murderer for doing so. So like, yeah, you're built for this shit. Just go get it.
Yeah.
That's also how we win. Like, I mean, obviously, I'm the agorist on the thing, so I'm obviously not as hip to the political thing. That aside, let's say that works. Let's say it doesn't, whatever, who cares? Throw that out. Even let's say it does work. Still, really, entrepreneurialism is the way. Like, if you like, that's going to have far more. If we can get enough people to move into the entrepreneurial areas of business, that will have far more of an impact than whatever you think any fucking political movement whatsoever is going to ever fucking have. If you have a large swath of fucking libertarian-ish people that are fucking, essentially borderline incapable of being. Say what? Balling? Yeah, one, balling, so they'll be doing well in life, and generally speaking, and two, be essentially unimpeachable by the powers that be, because they have protected themselves by diversifying their assets, by being not something you can just lay these like sweeping rules against, and like they'll stick. Like, yeah, they might get the occasional one here and there, but the nature of this decentralized large mass of entrepreneurs it'll fluctuate. You move from one thing to the other,
No, and that's been kind of my goal of the podcast, is to encourage libertarians to become jacked and tan, right? To physically improve themselves.
I'll never be tan, dude. Never. I'm never gonna do it.
I don't want to fucking hear it.
I'm working on my tan here. Look at that. Been here for like 2 weeks.
I was down there a couple weeks ago. You can't really see it now, but I'm mostly Italian. Not mostly, but I got bits and pieces in there.
The gym tan laundry.
David Brady's asking about if he thinks libertarian media production will be useful. Fucking of course it will, dude. Yes, absolutely. I when I was on your show a week ago, I said that's an amazing idea and we need it desperately. So fucking pursue it now. You don't even need to go to college for it. Like, everything that you need to learn about video production and business management, all of it's online for free. Like, you can do all of this on your own, and you're already pursuing it. So just go harder.
Look at Top as a model. Top, I know he's not libertarian media production, but he started like, let's be real, the way Top's model is, he just started doing everything he could for absolutely anyone to basically nose to the grindstone as much as he fucking possibly could, and got his name out there, and just kind of permeated the market to an insane degree. And
I did the same thing.
Huh?
Yeah, something crazy, David. Pay attention, because I think he's in college or a junior college. I went to college for fire protection and management. I've never worked a day in my life in the field of fire protection and management. I drove a truck, and I played guitar professionally at weddings, and now I'm a professional artist, and I've never went to school for any of the things that I've done professionally. Wow. There you go. Yeah. Go on YouTube, you lazy bitch. Learn some stuff. Everything's out there.
And I went and got a business management degree only to confirm everything I already knew. It really didn't teach me much. So
formality.
It was a formality, and ultimately it was just a placeholder while I figured out what I wanted to do with my life. And I think that's what college is for most people. And if you're in that position, you don't know what you want to do in your life, and you don't have a passion or a drive that's like calling you right now, then okay, maybe go to college and get a broader education. I'm not saying that it's completely worthless, but definitely avoid, like the plague, any sort of leftist collegiate institution that will institutionalize you.
Yeah, stop feeling like you have to jump through these hoops to get credentials. Like, sure, there's certain things like doctor, stuff like that you have to, but like, for example, look at I know this isn't necessarily credentials, but like Crip Daddy. Like, I know people watch Tower Power. Crip Daddy, he's become like a fairly, he's definitely blown up, a fairly prominent-ish comedian, and he never, like, if you talk to most comedians, especially old-timer comedians, they'll have this like shtick about how you got to go through the rigmarole. You got to do the open mics. You got to do this. You got to do that. But you know what? Fucking Cryptid, he just started fucking doing shit on Twitter. Started being fucking funny, and people recognized it, and it went from there. Find your talent. Start putting out there. Don't worry about fucking adhering to anyone else's fucking concept of what you have to do, of gatekeeping or whatever, and fucking just press on. You know,
this is the Wild West, folks. Like you have an opportunity to go and homestead. You know, like that's how I view the internet. Like you can go out and you can be or do whatever you're good at. Now it's important that you're good at it though. Like you can't just go like, I want to be this and I'm going to be it. No, you have to have skill there, but normally your skill will align with what you actually want. So just try and find those two things and pair them up.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's do plugs. All right, I have the No Way Jose show. You can find me on YouTube, all the major auto podcatchers, Odyssey as well, at 2020 No Way Jose. I don't really have anything big to promote. You guys.
Clint Russell, Liberty Lockdown. You can find me on Twitter at Liberty Lockpod, Liberty Lockdown on Instagram, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, everywhere else. And this week, actually tomorrow, I will be having on Judge Andrew Napolitano, and then the next day I will be having on Roger Stone. So it's going to be a big week for me. So everybody go subscribe to Liberty Lockdown. Thank you.
Holy shit. Yeah. TopLobsta, TopLobsta _ on Twitter, TopLobsta with an A everywhere else, TopLobsta.com, and go and download the Odyssey app. Show some support there and stop worshiping the Antichrist here on YouTube.
And subscribe to Liberty Lockdown on Odyssey. Thank you.
Yes.
Kyle Matovcik, last name is spelled Matovcik. I know that's pretty difficult to spell, but if you look up In Liberty and Health, you'll find me everywhere you can find podcasts. Check out my band, A Common Crown. We will have a really cool show announcement for everybody in Pennsylvania pretty soon. I'm really excited for that. And Wednesday, I have a show coming out with Brandon Harnish. He's a GOP activist in Indiana who's passing tax laws. And Friday, one with Joffrey Verity Schofield. He's a big fitness influencer. So that's my plugs.
Thanks for the super chat, Poyu. I think super sticker. Don't they usually send a sticker? Did you just literally type in super sticker? I'm confused.
You fucking boomer.
He's just cool as fuck, man. I love that guy. And everybody, seriously, go to toplobsta.com and pick up some goddamn shirts.
The shirt.
Your dick bills.
Yes, I will.
Kyle?
As a dude who wears mediums, his shirts fit pretty fucking well. So,
dude, they're awesome.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we got the new Disobey Your Global Tyrant, which we kind of coincides with today's episode. So go check those out. Those are cool.
Perfect.
Get Tower Power merch.
Yeah, can we get one of fucking Will Smith slapping Chris Rock?
I'm sure somebody did that already. I don't draw black people.
That's a good way to end it.
I'm joking. I have a design. There's a Thomas Sowell up there, so I'm just joking, guys.
And you've also done AHLI.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Kyle, thanks for having me on, even though I kind of just jumped in.
Well, this was Jose shit, so yeah.
Sort of. It was confusing. Kyle was hosting, but yeah.
Gotcha. All right, cool.
All right. Well, I guess we're out of here. I guess that was supposed to be yours thing, Kyle, but all right, we're out.
See you guys.